Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hey, I'm Francesca.
Welcome back to our podcast,
Critical Babe Theory. And tonight, it's night. This is like the late night special. We have a very special guest, my dear friend Britt Rowell, who is, I've got it, a movement professional who's transitioning and pivoting into mental health. Does that feel like a...
Yeah, that feels like really correct.
Okay, great. Correct, succinct. We're on it. How are you doing today?
You know, I am in my second year of social work school, so it's been a really intense week of deadlines, but I'm doing good.
But you're here.
But I'm
Nonetheless,
here.
She persisted. That's our motto. Is that an Elizabeth Warren reference?
I think so. Right?
Pocahontas.
Yeah, Pocahontas, the most devastating nickname of all time. Such a good troll.
Aw.
Let's start off with not Trump appreciation moment. Anyway, how's your
Brett's
your
like,
day's
oh God, what did I sign up for?
Your day's okay.
Yeah, pretty
Great.
okay. I went to the gym, lifted some
Pumped iron.
What gym do you go to?
Oh,
Not
God.
like the address, but like Crunch or YMCA or Equinox
I go to Chelsea Piers
in Brooklyn or
So cool.
in Brooklyn.
There's
Okay.
a Chelsea Piers in Brooklyn.
yeah, it's supposed to be really nice.
Do you ever go into the batting cages?
No, I didn't even know we had that.
Actually, super fun.
I just go in, pick up the barbell, put it back down, do that a bunch of times for like an hour in various ways.
Have you guys ever watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger Pumping Iron documentary?
No, but now I
doesn't
want to.
I know, doesn't it sound really good?
It's a documentary about him working out.
I don't know if it's even a documentary. It's just
Is it like a YouTube video?
It's like no, it's from like back in the day before. It's from before YouTube, Sarah. I don't know if you can remember when you just had that, you pop in that VHS. I did. This actually is a good segue. As a child, I would do my mom's Jane Fonda tapes with her.
I remember those, yep.
Right? The socks, the leotards. It was amazing.
Yeah, definitely working out had a better look back then, I think. Or well, I don't know. You're the professional.
I mean, I feel like fitness has always kind of shifted back and forth between this like open landscape of everyone should be healthy and let's be holistic and take care of our mind and body, yada, yada, yada. But then there's always this movement towards optimization and purity in Pilates, weightlifting, yoga, like all of the things, you know? And it's really hard to get away from.
Yeah.
That's why I'm literally moving away from it with my career choice.
So what drew you to becoming a movement professional?
So I was a ballet dancer.
Okay.
And I accidentally stumbled into a Pilates studio when I was dealing with an injury that kept me from dancing.
What do you mind? What injury was it?
I had 6 stress fractures in my left shin.
Yeah.
Didn't you have the same thing?
I had tendonitis in 11 of my joints, and I had plantar fasciitis which is this thing in your feet that's awful.
Well, we're also both hypermobile, so that makes sense.
Similar background, although I think I'm just going to say you're a better dancer than me.
That's honestly maybe not even necessarily true.
I know, but that's the story I tell myself. But like dance background.
Yeah, you both are dancers whose career was cut short by injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when
Not
you
me.
stopped?
I stopped.
I'm very uncoordinated.
I think you really tear it up on the dance floor.
Yeah. No, I have enthusiasm. I don't have
what you
skill.
lack in technique, you bring forward. Yeah.
No one's
Honestly,
ever-
that's more fun.
I have no grace in my movement.
I remember the first time she saw me dance at a party, her first reaction was, whoa.
That's cool.
Grace is completely overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like ballet is kind of fascistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Talk about optimization and like control.
Yeah. It's interesting, a lot of the dancers I used to be friends with are now either moving into physical therapy or psychotherapy.
To recover from their dancing.
To recover, but then they're moving into that professionally as well.
It's a lifelong journey to
Yes.
recover from dancing. I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about signing my kids up for ballet, and I kind of want to do it. I just want to repeat the cycle of, let's not use the T word, complete the cycle of
let's not use
whatever.
the T word.
What's
Trauma.
oh.
Well, it's just, I mean, me and Francesca had this conversation off the pod, but how it's like overused and over medicalized and over pathologized.
Totally.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of lost its meaning.
It's
Yes.
crunch.
Yeah.
If you go into a party and you're like, well, I have trauma, it doesn't really make waves the way it used to.
Right, exactly.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score is a big reason for that, right? There's like a whole cult following around him, and he's done really good work on one hand, and, you know, bridging the gap between the biological underpinnings of trauma and the kind of societal environmental forces in trauma. But now, you know, everyone has a claim to trauma and everyone is traumatized.
Yeah.
And not to, I want to use my words carefully, not to like discount or invalidate someone's feelings of being traumatized, but it's just become so ubiquitous that it does lose meaning.
Totally. I will say that when I read that book, it ruined my life.
Wait, can you say more?
The Body Keeps the Score?
Yeah.
I read it for a week. It sent me, not to get too heavy or anything, it sent me into like such a severe PTSD response. And then I was like, I'm going to actually go with repression. I was like, I think these things might be better just repressed. I don't know that we need to explore them. And I actually, when I was last in therapy, which was a long time ago, the therapist that I saw, who was also a psychiatrist, was training as a Jungian and had, I believe, had a master's in psychotherapy. I remember her saying, she was like, you know what? She just like, this is an offhanded comment. She was like, you know what? They actually do find repression to be quite effective, you know? And I was like, you're telling me this now, bitch?
Well, repression is like any of the defenses. It is useful.
Totally.
Until it's not useful.
Totally. I mean, I think that you could argue that the entire breadth of human experience is traumatic, you know?
Yes.
So, like,
I mean, even just being, sorry to cut you off, but even just being a child growing up and realizing that your mom has relationships with other people and you're not the sole recipient of your mother's love, that is a traumatic development.
The birth of a sibling, which you must have experienced many times because you have so many siblings.
well, I actually one time had a psychiatrist tell me that was the root of my problems, which I feel like is some like old school Freudian shit. She said that like basically all my problems stemmed back to like my mother giving birth to my first sibling, which I actually remember as being a joyous occasion.
But she was like, oh no, let me tell you what really happened.
Yeah, and then she told me I had borderline personality disorder.
Oh.
It was my first session with her. I was a little like,
what?
yeah.
You can't diagnose someone with BPD off of a first session.
Also, you just don't give borderline. Like,
I remember calling you and you were like, you know, if the diagnosis isn't helpful for you, you can just disregard it. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, because diagnosis is, I think, an art. The DSM goes through all these iterations because there's disagreements in what constitutes a diagnosis among psychiatrists and psychologists, right? Also, I don't believe in the borderline personality disorder diagnosis.
Oh, like at all?
Yeah.
Oh, can you say more? I'm very curious about that.
Sure. So borderline, and I am actually a huge Freud fan, but Freud described borderline patients as being on the border of neuroses and psychosis. So neuroses meaning like your kind of everyday anxiety, everyday depression. And then psychosis as not being able to discern between what's real and what's not. So schizophrenia, that kind of thing. And so people on the border, people who were borderline, were actually demonstrating symptoms and describing experiences that oscillated between neurosis and psychosis. And so the development of the borderline personality diagnosis occurred much later with like the DSM-3, I think is when it was fact check me. And the set of symptoms is often like borderline personality disorder is most commonly diagnosed in women. And one good thing that Van der Kolk, I think, gave us is that he worked with another researcher. I can't remember her name, but she basically said that borderline personality disorder was not a personality disorder, but a symptom of complex trauma. Or chronic trauma that happens over a period of time, as opposed to acute trauma, which is single event trauma, PTSD, shell shock, that thing. And borderline personality disorder is a very derogatory term within the psychotherapeutic community. Like if you say to, and I have had a practitioner say this to me when they were referring a client to me, this person is kind of borderline. And like that meant that they were difficult, that you couldn't work with them, that you had to watch out for their mood swings.
Their manipulation,
all the things. And, you know, whether or not personality disorders exist is like another argument that happens. Because personality isn't a fixed thing. It's something that's like created by our environment and our like genetic proclivities, right? But yeah, borderline is a very derogatory term.
Question. Yeah. Is narcissism, as it's diagnosed, is that a personality disorder?
That is, in the DSM, it's a personality disorder.
Because I don't believe that narcissism is real.
Say more.
I just read this, like, people are always, every time I would say talk about my ex, people would be like, oh, he's a narcissist. And I'd be like, maybe. Or they'd be breaking up with somebody and they'd be like all on Instagram, like, the signs you're dating a narcissist. I'm like, look, statistically speaking, every ex of every bitch I know cannot be a narcissist. It's just that the numbers don't work out. And then I read this article in New York Mag, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Did you see that about narcissism?
About the narcissist influencers, people who get diagnosed and then they start giving advice about how to deal with narcissists based on their own personal experience being one, which is really interesting.
It's funny, but also, like, I definitely low-key, like, related to that.
Wait, what parts did you relate to?
I don't know. Just kind of, like, holistically. I just feel like, and I've been told that I'm a narcissist in certain situations, and I'm always just kind of like, to me that seems like an expedient accusation fitting.
I mean, but my understanding of the diagnosis is that it's a person who cannot feel empathy, which I don't think is you.
No, I don't agree with, I don't feel like that's me. I think I have hell of empathy, but I do think that it's thrown off. I mean, I would say, like, Trump, to bring it back, I believe that motherfucker's a narcissist.
Sure.
Like, that dude is fucking bananas.
So you do believe in narcissism?
I believe in there is one.
No, I think like trauma, it's something that's overused to like identify self-centered behavior, which we all exhibit, just like maybe not pathologically, and maybe more so in like different areas of our lives. You know,
we can all engage in narcissism.
Yeah.
Lowercase n narcissism. And Freud's definition, his working model was really that when we are children, we have what's called primary narcissism, which is actually really important for the development of like an ego. It's that your mom loves you unconditionally and the world revolves around you. You need that when you are a baby.
But then it gets ruined by your sibling, that interloper,
and then you develop borderline personality disorder. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe the reason I'm still in my primary narcissism is because I didn't have siblings. I'm like putting out new theories.
No self-diagnosis.
I mean, I feel like in that article it was talking about this therapist who, you know, had this very kind of not pinnacle, but like had this famous case study about treating a narcissist. And it was a person who,
like, hella long ago, like in the teens.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't remember the name.
Years ago.
But he kind of went through the treatment process with the person and basically found out that they had repressed this like sexual trauma that they had as a child. And then later on people who studied this case were like, I think this is actually the guy
was just writing about himself.
Yeah. But in that case, because basically in the article they were talking about how like people don't believe that narcissism can be cured or treated like other mental illnesses, and there's a stigma, on narcissism that like people with depression don't have. Like they get a lot of sympathy, but narcissists don't. And but like in that case, it seemed like this person actually had was like a complex trauma that when treated like allowed them to interact with the world differently.
You're so much more like balanced in your takeaway from things. Literally, my takeaway from reading that article is that I was at a party later that night and I was like talking to these guys and I was just like, so as a narcissist.
That's great.
Know thyself.
Yeah, totally. That's our motto.
Well, I think what you said in that the origins of narcissistic personality disorder is complex trauma. And when you treat the complex trauma, then perhaps the NPD is more malleable, just like with BPD, right?
Yeah. I actually can think of a person in my life that is not you. But who I thought of as a narcissist for my whole life. And I thought it was an immovable part of this person's being. And then they did undergo some pretty intense trauma therapy and came out the other side like way less, I would say.
Aggravating.
Borderline, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you think it works?
I mean, the person I'm thinking of, they never got a formal diagnosis. It was more of like my, informal diagnosis.
Yeah. So I guess this is crazy. Do you feel like therapy works?
That is a great question. And I think therapy works when you have the buy-in of the client for the style of therapy they're getting.
Okay.
So like if you don't believe that EMDR therapy is going to work, but then you go and do EMDR therapy, it probably won't work.
Really?
I mean, this isn't a statistical.
Sure.
But if you don't have the buy-in from the client, and this goes for physical stuff too. This goes for tell me.
See, because Britt is a miracle worker. But I really do feel that that's true. Okay. That you have access to some intuitive information that's pretty amazing in my experience, having been as a dancer who's like worked with lots of different people in different capacities.
So I'm going to pause you there. Mm-hmm. I think, and I've heard that from clients of mine before, regardless of if I'm working with them as a movement professional or working with them as a therapist. And I really think that and they've done studies on this, the success of a therapeutic intervention is really dependent on the quality of the therapeutic relationship. And I'm very relational in my approach, and I really defer to the innate wisdom of my client. So I almost want to push back and say, I don't think it's my intuition that you're feeling. I think it's your intuition that you're feeling reflected back at you. That is allowed to come up because I ask you the right questions. We have a working relationship where you feel safe and seen. I'm not her therapist. I'm her Pilates instructor.
That'd be so
I still
funny.
have Pilates clients because, like I said, grad school,
We have to pay some bills.
we have to pay some bills. And yeah, so you have vocalized feeling safe in our working relationship. And so when I ask you about your body, you tell me about it, and then we go from there.
I appreciate your modesty. I'm always going to tell myself and everybody I talk to about you that you are a miracle worker. I hear you. I do think... But
Francesca's abs kind of speak to that.
literally, I can't tell you. Even like the 20-somethings are like bitch. They're like, how did you, you know what I mean? Anyway.
I mean, but that you're doing the work that you want to be doing.
Totally.
So.
But here's the thing that what first really drew me to you was that, okay, how can I paint the picture? You go to a yoga class. You have a white man. He's 47. He's never done much of anything. He can barely touch his toes. Suddenly, he's attempting a full wheel. The teacher's encouraging him. Everybody's clapping. I'm over here like, this motherfucker's gonna slip a motherfucking disc. Like, I think part of having been in the fitness world, because when I was a dancer, and I want to be clear, I had a problem. Like, I used to run 2 miles to the gym at 5 a.m. Then I would swim laps. Then I would get on a Stairmaster. Then I would lift weights, and I would work out for 3 hours. Then I would run back home. Then I would go to school. I would dance for 8 hours, and then I would stretch for 2 hours at night. So, like, pathological.
Yeah.
Right? But I guess what I found is there is so much pathological destructive behavior in the fitness world where people are doing things that are supposed to make them like better. Like CrossFit would be the greatest example of this in my mind.
Optimization, purity.
But like, they're fucking hurting themselves so bad, and it scares the shit out of me. As a dancer who has sustained major injuries, I'm like, to that white man, I'm like, you should not be here. Do you know what I mean? You're not ready. You're not ready.
Well, and I don't believe in gatekeeping anything in the fitness world, because that happens too. And it's like, then you've got these people saying, oh, you have to do my functional method and it's the only method. Everything else sucks, but this functional fitness method is going to heal everything.
What is functional fitness?
Functional fitness is
that just like branding?
I mean, in my opinion, it is. Functional fitness is fitness that is meant to mirror tasks of everyday living and meant to improve your ability to do those tasks. But if you do any movement system well, it all has functional transference. If you can back squat, that will have functional transference. If you can deadlift, and the functional fitness and just like part of the industry does like to demonize like traditional weightlifting, demonizes also Pilates, and it's like, I just move your body and you're gonna be fine.
It reminds me of Nathan Fielder's like setting up that starting a fitness movement that was just like supposed to provide free labor to this moving company. Did you watch Nathan for you? No. Basically, he like invented
so on brand for the US with
he invented a fitness influencer. This guy, like, he got this guy to just like start going around being like, my entire physique is due to me lifting boxes and like moving furniture and stuff. And then he like wrote this fake book and put it online, and then like got all these people to sign up for this fitness program that was like literally them just like volunteering for this moving company so that the moving company could like cut its costs.
This is like a Tom Sawyer thing. Okay.
He actually like got on a bunch of talk shows and was like talking about it, but like he like the fake fitness influencer, and Nathan Fielder was like trying to get him to like work out in the storage unit so that people would never like see him at the gym and whatever. It's funny, you should watch it. But just the functional fitness.
Yeah.
But I think also what it makes me think of is like the Jane Fonda stuff. For my mom, I feel like that ethos, that 80s ethos, was also very much about being very thin.
Just like the Pilates movement right now. And every time Pilates is talked about in a critical way, it always, like, the Pilates community responds with an uproar to any, like, Pilates teacher or fitness teacher who is critical of Pilates. But that is what we're seeing, the, like, trendy Pilates arms, or, you know, how to get your Pilates body. And that just means a body that is really, really thin.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Body Evolutions?
No,
I have not.
There's 3 or 4 studios in Manhattan. It's actually an amazing Pilates studio, and I feel like the vibe is a little bit like my favorite instructor, Anthony. He's like this like older Italian guy, and he wears sweatpants up to here, and like he has like long hair, and it's like a very positive, I feel like, Pilates environment, you know, like
live and let live.
Yeah, it's not like those girls being like, okay, and da 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 da, you know? It's like...
Well, I used to do Physique 57. I didn't do it regularly. Do you know about that?
It's bar method.
It's bar method. I had a friend who was like really into trying to be as thin as possible all the time. And so occasionally she would have like a guest pass and I would go with her. But you would go there and you would just do so many crunches that like then you couldn't really walk, you know? And I was just, and I remember, and she'd be like, this is gonna get us thin. And I'd be like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And like, to me, that's not functional. You know, like I don't want to walk away limping from a class, but I think there's this like this American ethos of like pain is gain, right? Don't you think?
Totally. And like personally, I think that's because we don't have a context for suffering, you know? So we have to like channel it into something productive. Like we can't accept that we're just like we suffer for no reason, you know?
That's really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Naomi Klein wrote about the fitness and wellness, like alt-right pipeline, and she said something similar, but a little different. She said that there was this transition that happened after like the 1960s where, you know, you had this collective anti-war movement, collective protesting, which ultimately failed, right? And people turned towards perfecting their bodies as opposed, because, if I can't change systems, if I can't change the world around me, then I can make my body perfect. And that's almost like the context for suffering thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also like, I mean, I think in the optimization culture as well, it's a little bit like, and if you do this, like, you'll never die.
Yeah, it's the fear of death, it's the fear of aging, it's all of that for sure.
There was just this article in New York Mag about like, is 42 too young for a full neck lift or something like that, and I was like, okay. And then of course like the person goes on this like very long, you know,
Is 7 years old too young for a full neck lift?
Exactly. She goes on this like very long, she's really trying to be very even-handed. She's like, I don't think that you have to get a neck lift, but for me. And she goes through all this shit and she's like, I gained 80 pounds in each pregnancy, back to back, all this stuff. And then at the end of the article, it has her before and after pictures, and I literally couldn't tell the difference. And I was just like, oh, right. Do you know what I mean?
Like body dysmorphia?
Or like she really felt she needed this thing, and doing this thing really changed her life for her. I don't know if anybody else saw it, and it doesn't matter because it's like an inside job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was my takeaway from it. And I'm like, I'm so glad that she got what she thought she needed. I don't see it or how it did anything at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But like that's a way to like fight. What is fighting aging is fighting death, you know?
Yeah. And I think, yeah, totally.
What's the Woody Allen quote like about men cheating? It's because that's from Moonstruck. Weren't you talking about this? Did I make this shit up?
Yeah.
Why do men cheat?
Because they're
afraid to die.
Yeah.
But like, why do women get neck lifts at 43? Because they're afraid to die. Why do they do Pilates? Do you know what I mean? It's like an interesting...
Yeah, so do you feel, I guess when you're talking about I'm not plugged into the Pilates community. So what's happening there? What are people saying?
Well,
what are people mad about?
Yeah, so I try not to be plugged into it, but I plugged back in for the pod. But you sent me an article where this woman had posted a video about Pilates being political and how Pilates right now is encapsulating the pursuit for thinness and like this idyllic femininity and
I would also say whiteness is very
whiteness
correlated.
Yes, for sure,
with Pilates specifically.
Yeah, of course. And her thesis is that Pilates right now is for women to get as small as they can and to take up as little space as they can, and that is inherently political and fascist. And I was really interested in the response of the Pilates community. So I did my Reddit research and people are mad at her.
And is this the woman who wrote this article is not white?
She is not white,
Yeah.
and she is a fitness person. I think she's a bar teacher. I think she's Pilates certified. I think she's like in the world. And what was really interesting about the criticisms is that I feel like they were missing the point, which people are like, oh, why is everyone trying to make Pilates political? It's not political, blah, blah, blah. Or like people being like, Pilates saved my back because I was in so much pain from stenosis and it was the only way for me to get fit. And like all of those stories are very valid and true. And Pilates can be so helpful. But I think what the critiques are missing is that the marketing around Pilates and what the algorithms reinforce is this white ideal feminine skinniness, Pilates arms, which means like showing muscle but not too much muscle, being strong but like
not too strong,
not stronger than your husband or whatever.
Yeah. And we are 3 people who all do Pilates.
I mean, I don't really do Pilates.
I don't think you do it anyway.
I sell Pilates.
I mean, I wouldn't say we do Pilates.
Oh, that's so funny because in my mind, but I'm also, I don't know if this is the dancer or just my personality where I'm like, I do Pilates, but I only do Brit Pilates. Like, I don't, like, people have been like, do you want to come to a class? And I'm like, no.
I mean, it's going to be very different than
I'm
what
like,
we do,
I'm not going to go to your
training.
class. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, so you're not doing really Pilates with Francesca?
Not, I mean, I feel like
because she always says I have Pilates. She's been spreading that around town that you teach Pilates.
Well, when we started, you were at a Pilates studio. And the thing that's so interesting about you as a practitioner is you have so many other modalities of knowledge that you feed in, which is why I think you're so good at what you do. But when we started, which was so many years ago now, 5+ years.
How old Eva is.
Yeah, my oldest daughter. Because I was like kind of messed up after my first pregnancy. We did start with that.
Yeah, and I think that if I am marketing myself for clients who want strength training and help with their physical pain, then Pilates is just the easiest word to say.
Yeah.
But I'm a pluralist. I've trained in yoga. I've trained in like personal training, strength training. I am someone who followed all of the fitness trends, who was like, oh my God, the TRX is everything. Let me do TRX for like 6 months and then realize, oh wait, there are limitations.
There's limitations to everything.
To everything, yeah. And I only learned that by doing all the crazy trends. And so I'm a pluralist, and I mean, ultimately, the only reason why I'm not making you lift weights is because you don't have weights in your home.
I can't get my shit together and get on Amazon.
It's all about meeting the client where they are. You are like, I
literally this bitch cannot order something online.
Well, yeah,
that's okay. But we do strength training that is like body weight and using different props and doing movements that pull from multiple modalities for your specific body so that you will not be in pain from your hypermobility or scoliosis.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more specific.
But it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm jealous. I hope we make enough Patreon money for me to take classes.
I mean, it is kind of amazing. Like, I remember always hearing those stupid people articles where they're like, I'm 40 and I'm in the best shape of my life. You know, and you're always like, ugh. But I'm like, I'm 40 and I'm in the best shape of my life. You know what I mean? And it's really cool.
A huge reason why you can be 40 and in the best shape of your life is because you have more time to strength train. Like, you, compared to your 25-year-old body, you have 15 more years to have been strength training.
But there's also this whole thing of, like, which I think is very American, which is, like, I've been reading a little bit too much about, like, weird looks maxing shit on, like, whatever, such like really intense misogynistic weird shit about like men and women, and women's peak age for desirability is 23, men is 37, all this like crazy stuff, which like, why was I reading about that? I don't even know. I don't want to read it. But there's this idea of like, there was a time when I was 23 or 25 when I could have been at my best. This like worship of youth. Do you know what I mean? Which I feel like.
But what is that like? What does that mean? Like the time you're most attractive to other people,
or the most fertile,
most attractive, but like maybe you have the most ability to, I don't really know what the science would be, the most ability to build muscle mass, or like football players. Okay, let's take it to football because we're gonna be watching some football tonight. So like, what's the best age? There's also a man in the room, and my literal first instinct was to ask the man a sports question, which is like so insulting. I mean, it's not insulting, it's just funny. But like with male athletes, let's talk about male athletes. There's some age that's considered like they're at the peak because they've gotten like physically. I want to say it's 27. I could be making this shit up. Like they're at their peak physical strength, but also their brains have caught up with their physical ability, so they're able to like integrate into.
Interesting.
Just in time for them to get traumatic brain injuries on the football field.
Okay, let's talk about basketball. Okay, I think it's something like
TBI exists in basketball
to a much lesser extent. I do not feel like I'm morally compromising that many people when I watch basketball. But like, there's some span of like when you're at your optimum, which is like, is that maybe true? I don't know. Sure, I could. I mean, no, you know. Who's the 50-year-old? Is Aaron Rodgers trying to keep playing quarterback? People are like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You know what I mean? You're just too old. Like, your time has passed. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but obsession.
I think you're touching obsession, optimization again, which is like, you have all this minute research that focuses on like, what time of day should you eat your protein for the like biggest maximal gains in protein, or like whey protein versus plant proteins. Like, just eat food that is diverse.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen the person online
this is like
who eats butter?
Oh, I eat hell. I thought
no,
trap guy.
She only eats like steak and
dude. I
butter.
met
like,
one of these bitches.
No, she like has a stick of butter. I just saw this video. Yeah, she's on the plane and she's like, airport food is so unhealthy. So I packed my own food and then proceeds to chomp down on a stick of butter. And I can't tell if this is real or not.
So I was at a party in, of all places, California. And I was just making small talk, and I was talking to a woman who I don't think this will get back to her. And she was like, yeah, I'm on the steak only diet. I was like, oh, so you eat like some steak every day? She's like, no, I only eat steak. And she's like, and I let myself have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, black, but with like a quarter stick of butter.
You're gonna get scurvy, bitch.
But also, she said she wanted to do it to lose weight, and I was like, how long have you been doing it? And she was like 4 months, and I was like, it doesn't seem to.
Well, you need fiber to process the protein you're eating. Anyway,
but then she was like talking about putting her kid on it, and then I was like, I have to exit this conversation. I was like, I can't. That's when like you can do look. I used to be vegan. I used to have an eating disorder. I have been on the Master Cleanse for. Do you know about the Master Cleanse?
I do. I have also done every food trend.
Like I was at one point. This is crazy. So I was dancing. I was at Cal as a dancer. So I was doing my like working out 3 hours in the morning, running to the gym, then dancing for 8 hours on the Master Cleanse, which means you just drank water with cayenne, maple syrup, and lemon. For 2 weeks.
This is so hardcore.
For 2 weeks. And guess what happened to me? You're never going to guess.
You had to be hospitalized.
I gained weight.
Because you probably were so stressed. Your cortisol was probably so high.
But also, like, there's this other thing with optimization. Like, if I just do the right thing, that like then I can control and I can create a specific outcome. And I'll tell you, this is a PSA to the girlies and everybody out there. Like, you can starve yourself and still gain weight because it is an inside job. Do you know what I mean? Like, energetically, something was happening where my body was not willing to let go of that protection at that time. And like, I needed that. And like, but there is this idea in fitness, in dieting, in nutrition, that if I could just control it, and if I just follow this every rule, then I can control the outcome. And that has just not been my experience.
No, it's not mine either. I've done like every fitness trend, every dieting trend, every somatic therapy, trauma-based blah, blah, blah trend. And it's, I mean, yeah.
So is it fascist to be skinny?
I think it's fascist to idealize skinniness or thinness.
But do you think that, like, we're headed to a society where everyone will be skinny?
I mean, that's a really interesting question, because I think like 10 years ago we had the body positivity movement.
I know.
Right.
They were like, they were like, Ozempic, we can throw that one over.
It's like we got ass, we got curves, and it's great, and that was being uplifted, and I feel like that's completely deteriorated.
You can track it with the Kardashians.
And you can track it with political shifts in the US too, which I don't know if that is yeah.
I mean, clearly, like, as Pete Hegseth was
berating all the generals. Did you hear about this? Pete Hegseth called this crazy meeting with like all the generals and admirals from across the world, where everybody was like, this is literally unprecedented. It's never happened before. And everyone was like, oh my God, what are they going to do? And literally all he did is lecture them about how fat they all were, and how they shouldn't be fat, and how they need to like shave their facial hair.
They're generals. They don't really need to be like,
I know, they're all sitting there and they
lines.
can't react. So like, and then Trump got up there and was like kind of trying to work the room, but everybody was just sitting there like this, because like their whole point is they're supposed to be non-political, but they were like, it was so insane.
But like, yeah, like, what if, like, I guess what I'm asking is why, like, because there is a benefit in society to being thin, right? Like, there is privilege to being thin.
Yeah.
So now with like Ozempic, it's like, why would anyone
not be thin if they could?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think, does anyone know the risks of Ozempic and the long-term impact on people's health? I don't know.
I read the research on it, and it has since disappeared from my brain, because grad school brain.
I feel like I would be suspicious of it. I'm innately suspicious of the medical establishment in general. Let's take a look at, say, opioids like Oxycontin, and or the overprescription of antibiotics. Or the most amazing one, my favorite one, was that, I don't know what the timeline is. I want to say about a decade ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics suggested that parents not give their kids peanut butter, nut butters, or like any kind of nuts until they were 2 years old, thinking that that would prevent allergies. And then there was this explosion of nut allergies in America, and then they did some research, but there were like no explosion in Israel of nut allergies, and they realized that there was a correlation, which is a very common snack they give small children in Israel, is a peanut snack. And what they realized is actually, no, you have to give kids nuts very early so that they don't develop peanut allergies. So basically, the American Academy of Pediatrics single-handedly create a nut allergy epidemic in this country by giving bad advice. Do you know what I mean? And like, that's just 100% real. So I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm skeptical too.
Yeah, and I think we're in a moment of skepticism, more so than usual, with the current Department of Health, with our fave RFK gave himself mercury poisoning from eating too many tuna sandwiches. RFK has a worm ate his brain.
I know, literally, this guy is such a mess. I'm like, but that's honestly why I'm not that, this side note, not that worried about the country. Because I'm like, Pete Hegseth, rampant alcoholic, who just seems to be obsessed with like being fat, right? RFK, worm in brain. I'm just
also a heroin addict.
Also a heroin addict. I'm just like, I'm not that worried, because I just feel like they're so out of pocket across the board. I'm like, they are not setting themselves up for success. You know? It's a clown car over there.
Yeah, totally. But I think that RFK is capitalizing on this large distrust we have for the medical establishment that was like accelerated by 100%. COVID. Yeah. And I think that I think it's, on the one hand, I think it's good to question and to not trust blindly that pharmaceutical companies have our best interests in hand because that would be insane to think that based on the opioid crisis and the fact that they're fucking making money.
Well, yeah, and if you look at the research around pharmaceuticals and like the origins of the psychiatry movement, which I mean was really about quelling the working masses who were developing mental illnesses because they were unsatisfied with their lot in life of having their labor.
So give them some Valium.
Right. Or institutionalize them, right?
Yeah.
Put them in an asylum. Like that is like the origins that we're talking about. And I feel like the MAHA movement is coming in to this like gaping hole that's left by our failing healthcare system.
Totally.
Like the MAHA movement is right about certain things.
Totally.
Our food is poisoning us.
Our food, like the shit that they let in American food, like additives and preservatives compared to Europe is crazy.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if Europe's not allowing it, like we just shouldn't allow it either.
Europe bans so much more shit. Also, in, like hair care. And
I will say that the MAHA movement, I feel like the hyperfixation on like red dye is a little bit of a distraction from defunding maternity wards, right? So
Totally, and I think it's all putting the health of our nation on the individual while they, you know, like completely decimate the healthcare system, strip away EPA regulations that are like keeping the water. What did I just see? Indian Point, which is a decommissioned power plant in Peekskill, so like an hour north of the city, that I actually think that RFK had a big hand in getting closed. I know that nuclear power is considered very safe and very clean, but
I mean, different people have different thoughts on that, but
as a child growing up miles away from Indian Point, it was terrifying.
Miles.
Yes, it was.
That is scary.
Yeah, it was very terrifying, especially after 9/11, you know.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Anyway, so basically someone like bought it and they're like in charge of shutting it down properly, and they're like, okay, well, we have all of this radioactive waste, so what are we gonna do? They're like, we're just gonna dump it in the Hudson River. It's right there. And there was someone brought a lawsuit, and basically the judge was like, the federal government is in charge of regulating nuclear power. If the federal government is not saying that you can't do this, then the state cannot. And they got shut it down. So now they have the green light to dump fucking nuclear waste in the Hudson fucking River.
No.
So like, I'm sorry, but like telling me that like red dye is the problem while they're doing that, I mean, that's crazy.
This is sort of how I feel about vaccines. Have we talked about vaccines? Not that much.
I know you're like low-key anti-vax, but you vaccinated your kids.
Am I low-key anti-vax?
You're vax sus.
I'm vax sus. I was borderline anti-vax before COVID, and then COVID had the unusual effect of making me more accepting of vax.
Oh, interesting.
Than not. Yeah, it is an interesting turn.
Contrarian.
Till
all
the day
the way,
I fucking die. But to me, I'm like, I can sympathize with, and I have a lot of friends who are anti-vax. I totally sympathize with it, but I'm like, look, bro, we live in a world where they're dumping nuclear waste, right? Where PFAs, forever chemicals, are everywhere, where our food system is totally polluted. I'm like, the Thermosol is the least of my fucking problems.
Yeah, when our health department is being run by a man whose brain was eaten by a worm.
Yeah, it's funny because he was an environmental lawyer before. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting is that to this point, that the MAHA movement, like you said, is like making the individual responsible for their health, but it's like you can't out supplement, out therapy, or out weightlift a toxic, polluted environment.
You're not gonna win.
Yeah, and also like, despite all the butter you're eating on the airplane, like you could still get cancer. You know, you could probably the statistics for cancer in this country are probably like what? Like they're 1 out of 2.
They're actually increasing
they're increasing, yeah.
Yeah, they're increasing, and they're increasing in young people.
Yeah.
And the projection that some doctors have made is that cancer will affect 50% of adults.
That checks out. And I think that, like, so then, like, cutting funding for cancer research.
Yeah.
Well, you have influencers that are saying if you grind up apricot pits, then that will cure your cancer.
Which, cool for them, but, like, maybe we should have an alternative on backup. Like, that's some, like, Steve Jobs shit. Like, fruit didn't cure his cancer.
Yeah. And, I mean, to having backup, like, every time something in healthcare is defunded or deinstitutionalized, it's replaced with nothing. Like, the whole, and this is going backwards a little bit, but, like, the shift from asylums to community healthcare, to community mental health clinics, like, that didn't really work because community health clinics were not funded. And so, like, defunding cancer and then replacing it with what?
Yeah, totally. And I think that, like, when we're, like, in New York City, let's say, we're like, we have all these homeless people, the mentally ill, like, how, you know, like, how did we get here? It's like the problem is, like, going all the way back to closing the asylums, you know?
Which weren't good.
For sure.
But they were replaced with nothing. And the anti-psychiatry movement, the anti-asylum movement, like, it's very interesting because you have these two camps. One of them, which is more, like, associated with, like, the John Birch Society, health freedom, right? So, like, kind of the seeds for the current MAHA movement, right? And they're, like, they have these, like, libertarian values. They're anti-psychiatry because health freedom. And then you have more left-leaning anti-psychiatry movements that are against the, like, basically what is a carceral system.
Totally.
And when asylums were transitioned to community health clinics with the idea that you would just move the people into the community and they would be able to go to mental health clinics during the day and reintegrate into, like, family life, work life, etc. That, like, didn't materialize.
Are there more mentally ill people? Like, let's talk about, like, severe mental illness, not like the 22-year-old who's like, I'm so mentally ill. You know what I mean? And you're like,
I say that.
Yeah. You say it in a really cute way. But like, talking about, like, serious mental illness. Mental illness that makes it so that you can't really function as a normal member of society.
Yeah.
Is there more of it now than there used to be? I know this is not, like, I'm not asking for numbers. I'm just, like, because my question, this is how far afield, maybe it's because it's late at night. I'm like, so there's just so many people, man, right? And if we're, like, spirits in bodies, but now there's, like, 9 billion of us, is it just, like, spirits that aren't, like, as good at taking care of their bodies, like, entering all the bodies? Do you know what I mean?
Wait.
Can you follow what the fuck
Are
I'm talking
you
about?
talking about, like, collective unconsciousness?
I'm talking about, like, okay, so there's a modality, which I feel like is, right, that we are, all three of us, we're so lucky. We all have bodies, right? We all have a body. And then there's one primary spirit that is, like, seated and sort of owning, or whatever phrase you want to use. Animating this body in this lifetime, right? But it used to be, like, 100 and 200 years ago, there were only, like, I don't know how many people there were. There were 4 billion. There were fewer people.
There were definitely fewer.
So it's like, where are all those extra spirits coming from, man? And then is the explanation for the rising levels of mental illness that you're just having to call on all these different spirits that, like, maybe they didn't have experience being in a human body before, so they're better at just being like a turtle. So then they come into a body and they don't really know how to run it, and then they're mentally ill.
Because they want to be a turtle.
Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? But, like, why is there so much more mental illness?
So backing it up to that question, there's, like,
I get you.
There's, like, a debate kind of happening of, do we have more mental illness because we have more diagnosis and more pathologization, or do we have more mental illness because we have very high levels of inequality with a lot of people living on the streets in, like, various cities in the U.S. and
like, are we born mentally ill, or do we have mental illness thrust upon us?
So is it, it's in nature versus
so is
nurture?
it biological, or is it systemic and social and environmental. And that is this whole anti-psychiatry like movement too. When the DSM was created and when they were debating about it, like you had one camp who, and these are the psychiatrists who want to, you know, medicalize psychological illness so that it is as well respected a field as other medical fields, and where it can like match up with like insurance, and where there is a proven definitive medical treatment for this biological illness. So you have that camp of psychological illness is all biological. Okay. And then you have another camp, this is the left anti-psychiatry movement kind of, that is like, no, it's social, or no, actually, sorry, backtrack. This is the libertarian perspective of it is, there is no biological basis for mental illness. It is all social. It is all like a construct.
Whoa.
And really it is, you know, it is both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
This makes me think about my schizophrenic family. Do you know what I mean? Is schizophrenia is considered biological?
It's both.
It's both. Okay.
Yeah.
And I said this on a different podcast, but the New York City Health and Hospitals is testing everybody who has schizophrenia, a diagnosis of schizophrenia for autoimmune disorders, because they found in treating people with schizophrenia for totally separate autoimmune conditions that some people have actually been treated. And so, I mean, I think that schizophrenia and the DSM is like this big bucket. My understanding, like in the history of that diagnosis, where it's like we don't totally know what's going on
but
here.
Also, like, let's take it back a couple thousand years. You know, like if you were schizophrenic, you might just be like the shaman in your village.
You might have a shaman treat you and have an exorcism of some kind.
I mean, as somebody who has received an exorcism before, I can attest to the fact.
Wait, can you talk about this?
She already told the story on the podcast, but so offline.
I'll tell you. But like, that shit worked.
I mean, I go to Bellevue every other week for personal reasons.
To be helpful to people who
to
are
be
there.
helpful. And
she goes in and then she gets to leave.
I do get to leave.
Yeah.
And I go into a ward, like a locked ward. And I don't know how anybody is supposed to feel better when they're in there. It is so fucking... Like, there's no airflow.
That, I know.
I mean, there's a whole separate, like, theory of architecture and space about, like, asylums and stuff. But, like, the windows don't open. I mean, they're high up. But, you know, all of the furniture, like, the chairs are, like, these, like, heavy... Have you been to Bellevue?
I've not.
Okay, have you been to Bellevue?
Not in many moons.
Okay. The chairs are like really heavy plastic because like so that you can't like pick them up and throw them. And they walk around, they have these like little sheets that they have to get signed off, and they have these little golf pencils, and they're all wearing sweatpants, and they're all like clearly on like way too many drugs.
Yeah.
And like their beds are just like it's the worst. You know what I mean? And like I'm sure that the people working there are like doing the best that they can with what they have, but I'm like, yeah, if I was having a psychic break and someone put me in here, I don't think that I would feel better.
That tracks. That makes sense to me. And it's the same for like if someone is living on the streets and is completely insecure in their living situation and their economic situation, I mean, how does one not develop some kind of mental illness?
Totally. And if you're like paranoid and then like everybody around you is constantly like, oh, like, you know, throwing energy at you, you know, like obviously you're just gonna get worked up and be like, yeah, there is a conspiracy against me.
I feel like this is, should I out myself for the community that I used to be in when I was younger? Is this the time?
The Psychic Institute?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I was like a member of an intensive psychic program as a teenager. Like basically was like kind of like a church.
It's called the
Berkeley Psychic Institute.
But it's Christian. right?
It is Christian, but they are a church, which is I think how they get their tax exemption, but
Right.
you don't, just to be in the program, you don't have to go to the church aspect. So the Christianity part of it is not necessarily like woven through the classes and stuff. But I was in, and the reason that I went is because, so I was, I think 18 or 19 at the time. I had done a show where I was playing, how can I not tell this whole fucking story? Basically a very intense performance piece where I was getting like, not literally raped on stage, obviously, but I was like, what was happening was I was getting raped on stage. It was very intense. I had a high fever, and basically I never made separations after this show, and had 105 fever, which for me has tracked with moments where I've like really been off the reservation. And I think that if a mental health professional had seen me at that time, they would have diagnosed me as having a psychotic break. So basically, like, I came off this show, and then for weeks at a time, I would just wander around the streets of Berkeley at night, experiencing synchronicity. So I would, like, the water from the trees would be talking to me and, like, telling me about, like I was just, like, getting information from everywhere, right? And my roommate at the time, who I'd met off of Craigslist, this guy named Valentine, he saw me, he was like, whoa. He was like, dude, he was like, you should probably, like, come down to the Institute, man. Yeah, like it might help you, you know, because I think he could tell that. And so I went to the Institute and I started taking these like meditation classes, these psychic meditation classes. And at the time I had sounds so fucking crazy. So just, well, maybe it doesn't. At the time I had a lot of voices in my head, like, which I now have realized I think are just what people consider thoughts, right? Like different things like, oh, let's be really baseline. You're so dumb. This is so stupid, right? I had all these things in my mind, and I took these psychic classes, and after like a month or two, all those voices completely went away, right? Because in my experience was that I was like grounding out other energy that was foreign energy, right? And like it was no longer in my space. But I could see that if I had gone to a mental health professional, they might have been like, you are you're having a psychotic break. I don't know if I would have been like hearing voices. I think there's like in my experience with working with people over the years, there's a spectrum of what hearing voices can mean. Because I hear my friends tell me like their thoughts now, and like they'll be like, oh, I have all this what do people say? All this negative self-talk. Right? And I'm like, low-key, that sounds like you're just hearing some fucking voices, motherfucker. And what happened to me is that after I went to that psychic school, I never really experienced that again in my life. So like my brain now is kind of like this. Do you know what I mean? like I don't have a lot of noise in my head, almost ever.
So you don't have a lot of like rumination or
What's like
just like repetitive cyclic thoughts that kind of spiral?
No, I don't experience that anymore. But I do think that if I had been pointed not to the Psychic Institute by Valentine, but had been pointed by a mental health professional to an asylum, and this also tracks later in life when I did seek conventional therapy. I remember, I don't think I've told this story about how I talked to the head of the Jungian Institute.
No.
I didn't talk. Okay. So I went, there was this like free referral service where they would match you for low cost therapy with
It actually still exists, and if you need a
therapist, you can think about going there.
it's like $30 or $50 a
An
session.
hour, yeah. So this Jungian Institute, and they would match you with students who were there at the Institute for low cost. And I remember, but you do your intake with the guy who's like the head of the whole program. And I remember I told him my history, which I'm not going to tell here, but he was like, I remember at the end, he was like, you have a very heavy history, and there's not actually anyone here qualified to give you therapy. But so basically, like, even though I was living my life, was I in a lot of pain at the time? Yes, my mother, whatever. I had things happen. But like his diagnosis, and I received other diagnoses, was like, you're fucked. You're just fucked, you know? And at the time, I mean, it really upset me. And you know what was amazing? Lo and behold, I wasn't fucked. I was just having a rough period. And it passed. And like, I guess that's been my experience, and we've talked about this before. That's been my experience with therapy. Is like, I have been handed down some heavy fucking diagnoses over the years, and they just are they interesting intellectually? Were they good fodder for conversation? Yes. Did they actually end up meaning anything about my quality of life and my ability to live in the world? No.
Turns out telling someone they're fucked isn't very helpful.
Isn't very helpful. And also, like, it just didn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? And I wonder, I guess part of me is like, oh God, if I had stayed in that modality, if I had believed him, right? And then I'd been like, okay, well, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Like, where would that have taken me? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just being like, yeah, if your mom dies when you're a teenager, you're going to be really fucked up and sad about it. But you know what?
You're going to have grief, which is a normal response.
Which is normal. And like, then shit is going to change and eventually it'll get better. Do you know what I mean? Am I...
What?
No, I know what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like there is this kind of over-pathologization of grief. And, I mean, I think grief can be problematic if we're stuck in it. That's what, I mean, Freud writes about this as, you know, being melancholia. But if it's a grief that is, like, there's movement and you're able to meaning make and process, that's...
But it took, like, a decade. But that's what I tell everybody I know whose parents die, whose mom... Let's just be real. Whose mom dies. I'm like... 10 years. Give yourself 10 years.
Well, I think that Americans don't really expect to die. So when it happens, we don't have a lot of like experience and knowledge of like how to deal with it. So we're just like, okay, like take a week off and then see you next week.
See you
like,
back on the ground.
Yeah, and people are always really like uncomfortable around it. And
it's crazy. When my mom died when I was 19, I remember everybody just like the sensation I would have in a room, and of course some of this could have been projection, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Like, it was like I was like infectious.
Yeah.
That the ill fortune that they might catch it from me. You know, and I've heard this from other people who've had people die in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, that there is this like, we are at our base still superstitious beings, you know? Like, we don't want to be around those who are perceived to be cursed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're just like, people slowly kind of back away, you know?
Yeah. Does any of that like does any like in your social, like I guess I'm saying like, is your social work practice within like more expansive modalities, or is it very like traditional in terms of the talk therapy? Or
So when I went into social work school, I thought that I was going to be the best somatic therapist there could be, and that I would work in the site of where mental health and physical health meet each other. That is what I set out, but I have become increasingly suspicious of somatic therapy just because it seems to attract a lot of amazing clinicians and also like grifters. And I mean, even just looking at like social media algorithms with, if you're like looking at nervous system regulation and somatic work and trauma informed body therapy, like there's all the things, right? And I actually think that talk therapy can be really helpful, but I don't think that telling someone they're fucked is helpful.
Totally.
So, did that answer your question? So, yes, I am actually leaning more traditional as I learn more about not only therapeutic interventions and what makes therapy work, which is the relationship between the practitioner and the patient, but also when I learn about policy and macro level systemic issues that affect the mental health space.
yeah, because I think something that like both of those things, what your experience and what you're saying like speak to, and like MAHA, is that like there's a lot of expertise in the mental health field that I feel like does not resonate with people. Like people don't really like to be talked down to and told that they're fucked, you know? So like, and I feel like MAHA is kind of coming out of that of like, I actually feel fine, so like I don't want to like take the medicine that you're prescribing, you know? And like I think that historically there's been like self-determination movements within like the schizophrenic community, like hearing voices, people being like, I actually don't feel like I need to be treated, you know, or that I want to be treated with the like pretty shitty medication that's available to me. And in that way, I think that like, and maybe in what you're saying about like what this hole that we have because of the close of asylums, that like there's something missing from this like community care, you know, which is maybe like non-expert care, like maybe like peer support care.
Yeah, I mean, I think community-oriented care is really missing funding. Like, like if we fund, then we can, pay clinicians, we can pay non-clinicians, we can cultivate areas of community for people who are in recovery or rehabilitation of some kind. Where was I going with this?
I have like a more I know, Sarah, I really appreciate how practical and grounded you are. Can I just go out a little bit out again? I guess what I'm thinking about is like, because I'm thinking about if I had another thing for me, and I know we've talked a little bit about prescription drugs, is like, I remember when I was in therapy with the last person that I saw her for about probably like 4 or 5 years, I think. At that time, I was still, I would say, the meaning making, I was still in the end stages of grief around my mother's death. And I've never personally experienced depression, like the anhedonia that people talk about. But what I experienced were like these incredibly intense fits of despair, like really biblical level shit. Like I would literally find myself like the wringing of hands and the gnashing of teeth kind of shit, like really biblical shit. And I remember this person that I was seeing, she was like, it's funny. She was also a psychiatrist. She was like, there's actually no medication for despair. She's like, I can't treat you with medication, And I wonder if like, because I just happened to have a presentation that was not treatable by medicine, I sort of just had to fucking figure it out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, your presentation of symptoms did not neatly fit into the DSM.
Into the DSM.
Which is how
people
medication is prescribed, yeah.
But basically, she's like, I could put you on antidepressants, but I don't think that would actually solve your problem. So I just was like, what did the kids say? I was just like raw dogging it. And then I eventually was able to create meaning and a story of my life. And it also just passed. And I was able to build a life where I just didn't end up needing it. But like the time in was fucking significant. Do you know what I mean? It was like 15 years of the gnashing of teeth and the, whatever. And then, but I kind of think about like, I'm sort of, I don't know, personally, I'm sort of like grateful that I had to do the work of building a way of seeing myself in my life and an understanding of myself in the world, which for me, and I feel like a lot of people we know, like, yes, Americans don't really know that much about suffering, but I feel like a lot of the people we know are like, they're pretty intimate with suffering, would you say?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just had to come to terms with it in a way that I could create a life that I could live in.
You have said in the past that you don't believe talk therapy works.
I don't believe talk therapy works for me.
But it did. You were able to build.
No, but it didn't. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't when I saw her. It was after I stopped seeing her. It was getting pregnant. Let me just put it out there. Having a child fundamentally changed my psychology in a way, and my psychology / whatever you want to call it, spiritual outlook on life, where I no longer was at the mercy of my suffering.
But that's not guaranteed, I will say.
No.
And some people actually get more mentally ill after.
Yes, postpartum is incredibly real, yes.
Yeah, and then just also for continuing on, I've just seen people become more neurotic after having children.
Okay, yeah, I'm not saying it's a fix-all. I'm just saying that was
but that's your experience, yes.
That was my experience, that actually, like, and, like, did I like speaking with this woman once a week? Like, was she interesting? Did we talk about these interesting theories? Sure, but I sort of, like, my combination of the body keeps the score, where I went into that, and then I was like, no. Like, my thing was, like, repression, having children solved my problem. I mean, and then having, like, a very involved spiritual life. I would say, like, for me, that's where I found the solution.
And I think the solution for someone taking care of their mental health is always this holistic individual equation. And back to your question of like, am I going to practice social work from like a traditional perspective or a more like somatic integrative perspective? The traditional perspective of practicing social work, clinical social work, that I mean, I'm definitely psychodynamically leaning.
Can you talk, what is psychodynamically?
It's just to separate me out from like more behavioral, like CBT.
Okay.
CBT is great. I'm no shade against CBT at all.
I
Just
have
to say
heard
that.
people talking shit about it recently.
Yeah,
but
people.
It doesn't have
I
to
mean,
be you.
it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be this or that. Anyway. But yeah, psychoanalysis. I'm a Freud fan. That is where I lean. But I think the thing with social work that I really appreciate is that you are not the authority. You're not the authority in the room with your client or patient. You are partnering with your client. You are having their buy-in, their wisdom, their right to dignity and autonomy and agency. Like that's all, like, regardless of the kind of social work or the kind of therapy you're practicing, that is first and foremost.
Which I guess I'm slightly contradicting myself now, because I'm like, you know, I was talking about how like some people don't need expertise, but then also like some people are very enabled by therapy, I feel.
Dude.
So yes, and so just because you are partnering with your client doesn't mean that if you don't want to go in the first session and be like, here are all of the ways that you're resistant. Here are all the ways that you are engaging in bad behavior. Let's take all of these negative coping mechanisms away from you, force you to look at yourself, and boom. That's not how therapy is done, at least in the way that I've been trained and mentored. It's you build the therapeutic relationship first, and then you can help support your patient in confronting the ways that they perhaps negatively cope, or the ways that, the resistances and all of that. So the enabling part, I mean,
I have to say the people who I know who are in the most therapy are the most bananas. Do you know what I mean? But I'm also like, what is the, what are the demographics of who you are hoping to work with? Because I think a lot of my bias is like rich white people who want a bitch.
Well, that's a concierge service.
Yes.
I know a lot of therapists who work with that population, who also work on, like, they have sliding scale clients as well, so they try to like be equitable or they spent decades working in like a psychiatric facility, and now they are.
And then they're like, now it's time for me to make some fucking money.
Now I'm 60 years old, and it's time for me to be a little bit more cushy and provide therapy to the upper middle class, which is a completely fair endeavor. When you have like devoted your life to supporting people in need, but at that point, it becomes a concierge service. Yeah, like
I think that's where a lot of my resistance is.
Yeah, and I think it takes. I mean, I have this, I know this one therapist who's 82, so she's been practicing for a very long time. Her background is in the hospital system as a social worker, and she has very wealthy clients, and she charges one of them, like, I think $800 a session or something, and he asked her, he was like, and this guy makes like multiple millions of dollars a year, right? He asked her, wait, why do you charge me more than other people? And she's like, because if I didn't, then you wouldn't respect me. and then apparently he talks about like,
Do you hear that?
I know, it's someone's coptering in probably for a $800 therapy session.
So loud.
And part of what they talk about in therapy, and what she has him working on is his relationship with money, and why he'll come in and brag about like how much money he's making and how he's avoiding taxes and all of this. And she pushes him to confront that. And he'll come in and say, I want to work on this. And she's like, no, we're actually going to work on this. And so the partnering with the client thing, yes. And I mean, it all goes back to the client's goals. If the client wants to fix their depression or heal from their attachment wounds in childhood or whatever the case is, and then they ask for something else in the moment, then this isn't going to get us there.
But what if my goal as a client is that I just don't want to think about myself at all? Because in my experience, thinking about myself is the root of all my suffering.
Well, then why are you here?
Yeah, so that's, I guess, because like my sense would be like look, I have a bias, which is like I do think across the board that almost everybody would be served better by just not thinking about themselves that much.
Yeah, but like if the voices you were hearing, you understand now are people's thoughts, then like, you know, people might not have control over that. Like, it does take some sort of, like, radical shift within myself to get free of that.
You don't think just, like, going into action of just, like, trying to help other people in general is, like, a helpful way to...
Sure, but, like, as you said yourself, like, okay, like, for you, that service was, like, having a child.
Yeah.
So, like, for you... the solution is not just serving others, it's specifically...
Oh, I'm not saying it's like egalitarian, yeah, for sure. I mean, I do recommend that everybody has children because it will benefit them specifically so much, not necessarily for their children. But
no, I feel like for me, I feel like it was helpful I feel like I kind of needed to be mommied when I first went into therapy. Like, I did need someone to be like, things were so hard for you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it was helpful for me to have that experience. But then at a certain time, I needed to jump from, like, being validated as a victim to just, like, being a person in the world, you know?
And being
like,
empowered.
Being empowered and, like, just, like, okay, like, yeah, like, shitty things have happened to me, but, like, that's just everybody.
that's just what's happened to everybody.
And so, like, I feel like talk therapy kind of had, you know, like, for me it served a purpose, but then it kind of had a limit. And like recently I went off all my meds, and I kind of thought like I feel like I've had like a psychic rearrangement in my adult life, and I kind of thought that like going off my meds, you know, like I would be able to cope, and I was like really shocked by how.
I remember talking to you. You sounded so different. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, I was like very unwell. I was like really fucking mentally ill.
And so you have a positive experience with psychiatric medication.
Yeah, I went back on all my meds, and like I went back to therapy. I was having like anger problems when I got off my meds, and I went to EMDR because I was like, maybe this is like some sort of trauma that I haven't addressed.
How was that?
Well,
if you want to talk about it.
It just like, I feel like the therapist like didn't actually think I had a problem, because we never even got to the EMDR, and like every session he'd be like, that's so insightful, like you seem to like know yourself so well, and you seem to have like be able to put language to everything.
This
and I was like,
also,
yeah,
yes.
but I'm still in fucking pain, you know? So like he was kind of like, he kind of couldn't really do anything for me, you know, because it was like
EMDR did work for me. That's the only therapy I did. But it was like I didn't talk about shit. They just like put me under some kind of hypnosis, and then all my large scale PTSD symptoms went away.
But I think when I went, like, I actually wasn't, like, I don't think I have like active trauma. I think I just
I would like,
had, like
my shit was weird. It wasn't like relational. It was like I would see a certain image and I'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely limits to talk therapy. Like I love therapy.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a talk therapist. I believe in the power of psychoanalysis, but I also think that there are huge limits. And I mean, there was this article like a couple years ago that was like mental health is failing, like therapy is failing society. And the article, it might have been New York Mag, I can't remember, but the article like totally missed the point of what therapy is for. And it's like, we have all these societal problems and therapy isn't doing anything for them. It's like, really?
Yeah, that's not the job.
Like, and Danielle Carr wrote an article a couple years ago too about how, like, it's not a mental health crisis that we're living in. It's a societal, it's a systemic, it's a social, it's a political crisis that is affecting our mental health.
You know, this makes me think a lot. This would be like an early plug, but I wrote a play that we're gonna be doing a run of in November, and it's about the war in Gaza, and there's this one part in it where like this character is like accused of like being depressive, and she's sort of like, why wouldn't I be depressed if I saw like children who are starving, who've had their arms blown off? Like, why is that an inappropriate response to the world that we live in?
Right.
Yeah, mental illness is a sane response to a sick society. This is something you learned very early on in a theater major in college. Which is also a little enabling, because then you're like, you know?
Because as somebody who was like put in therapy very young, I was put in therapy when I was 5, and like then I've had
For what?
Let's not go down.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but anyway, it's gotta be serious if they're putting you in at 5, and has in multiple times in my life been like kind of not legally forced, but very much compelled to be in therapy by outside forces. I'm always just like, because my goal in life, and this is my goal in life, is to operate off of my own information. Now, sometimes I want to go to those who have expertise, because I don't think I have all the information about everything. But what I want to do is go out into the world, get information, and then I want to come back and be in dialogue with, let's call it my intuition, the God of my heart, what would Catholics call it, the Holy Ghost, I don't know, whatever. Like, I want to find what's true within myself and then live and act out of that. And I guess what my experience in therapy is that there was this outside human power that was like trying to, not in my experience, wasn't trying to get me in touch with my own inner truth, but was trying to kind of compel an outward truth upon me, which time after time I found to be incorrect.
Yeah, see,
over
that's
the course of time.
Yeah, and I think that is where, I mean, I hope that I don't do this with people I work with, but I really, really try not to project my own opinions, ideas of where they're at onto them. So right now I'm currently working at a day hab for adults with developmental disabilities, and still operating from this perspective of helping them find their inner truth, inner whatever we want to call that essence, right? Yeah. And I think it's a complete disservice to project my own anything onto them.
Yeah, and I personally know like a lot of mentally ill people who are and have become therapists. So it is a field that I feel like also attracts, maybe because I'm talking, like, I am an advocate for peer support, but I think that it should be seen as peer support and not like maybe a very mentally ill person becoming an expert based on their lived experience. That could be helpful, but I feel like it's a little dangerous.
Well, and what's interesting is that we are taught that our lived experience is actually not that important to our clients.
But the thing that to me is like, I don't want to hear from any motherfucker who hasn't had the experience. Like, I don't want to hear your goddamn opinion. I'm just talking about in general. This is even on our TikTok comments. Like, I don't want to hear your opinion. Talk to me about your fucking experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to hear, because, like, that's what I'm interested in.
Sure,
not,
but
we give our opinions all the time.
But also, like, the therapist isn't there to just give opinions. They're there to scaffold an environment where you're able to connect with your own inner truth.
I guess that just hasn't been, I see that as an ideal. That has not been my experience.
Yeah, but I think that, like, when you look at as, like, sick as our society is, like, if I look at my ancestors, my more recent ancestors, everyone was so fucked. Like, everybody, they were raging alcoholics.
They were beating their kids with the belts.
They were, you know,
they've died
jumping out of windows.
35.
Yeah,
they
like
were peasants. They were alcoholic peasants.
And I'm just talking about, like,
I'm a black person.
My grandparents.
South, so.
Yeah.
And I don't say peasants. I'm literally talking about, like, they were goat herders.
No, I'm not even talking about that far back. I'm talking about like my grandparents, you know, like their generation.
Yeah.
So you think we're doing great?
Definitely not, but I do think that there's some value to therapy and medication. Is my point.
I think and I agree. I think that there is value to therapy and medication. I think there's value to fitness, but I think there's limitations, and
you can't make anything. You can't make a false idol out of anything.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of making of a false idol of if you go to like a guru in any of these trends.
Or if you go to any guru, because I have been to gurus. Let me be clear. I've been to the ashram. I have been to the guru.
Yeah,
like,
same.
You're going to die. Like, nobody can solve that problem for you. And you have to face whatever. If you believe in God, you have to face the God or the no God upon that moment of your death. You know what I mean? And nobody can fucking circumvent that.
Yeah, my favorite is when the guru you see is a white guy with locks who has changed his name to something in Sanskrit.
Literally, we were just talking about how white people need to be banned from Asian religions. Permanently.
I mean, I feel susceptible. Like, I don't spend that much time on social media, but like, I recently have been convinced that there is a Korean skin mask that I need to buy.
I love hearing this. See, but this must just be the difference. That's okay.
What?
That literally never happens to me. But I saw a therapist for years who convinced me to make a major life decision, and I made it. So I guess we're all susceptible.
Can you say
I
it?
can't say it on the podcast.
I would say I'm definitely susceptible.
We're all
to
susceptible
like,
to
social media marketing.
I just haven't had the mask experience. I made much graver, more serious. You should
I
just bought the
spent
mask.
$200 on a facial cream because I thought it would fix all my problems.
Dude,
and then it
face
didn't.
care. This is a whole different issue. Skincare. 100% scam.
Oh, my sister is an esthetician, and she says, do not spend any money on anything that you put on your face.
Okay, I kind of have a different experience, which is I do think like I'll tell you. I have hormonal acne for the first time in my life.
Devastating.
I'm
so
sorry.
dumb.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's so weird. But I did go to the dermatologist and get a very expensive medicated cream that did fix my acne. Now I have run out of that cream, and I just cannot bring myself to spend $300 on this cream. So my plan is, when I'm in Rome, to buy it over the counter where it is $10.
That's amazing.
So I do feel like there's like this capitalist, like America is gatekeeping skincare from us so that we spend all of this money on this shit that doesn't actually work, when like there are products. Like, I think that skincare is like, you know, medicine. Like, medicine should be skincare. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, acne is like indicative of something else going on in your body, right?
But I also I do buy expensive skincare sometimes, not because I think that cream is going to do something for me, but I think that me putting something on that makes me feel special and valued is going to make me look better.
I mean, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do get that.
But I have spoken to professional makeup artists, and they say that all the older people who have great skin just use Cetaphil and sunscreen.
Yeah, that's what my sister says. My esthetician sister, she's like, she uses Cetaphil and she uses sunscreen, and that's it. She doesn't wash her face in the morning. She splashes it with water.
Damn.
You heard it first here.
And I have struggled with acne my entire life. The only concoction of lifestyle interventions that seems to help is thinking happier thoughts and not being stressed.
Dude.
And the sauna.
My struggle in life has been eczema. That's my struggle. And I got deep on Reddit once. I'm not like a Reddit person, although I respect it deeply. And they were like, have you ever noticed that right before you start scratching, it's because you have a negative thought? And I like went down this Reddit rabbit hole, and I was like, literally, they're right. I was like, I have eczema because of these thoughts in my head. And I was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, so it's really easy to understand how people get on board the MAHA train. You know what I mean? Like, it's all stress. It's all lifestyle. Just eat your butter and you'll live forever. And
totally. Biohack your life. sauna, cold plunge, all acupuncture, all these things, which I do all of these things, but
That
it's
sounds
not
cool.
it's not a replacement for your primary care doctor and having health insurance.
Yeah. Like, if your children get cancer, you want to be able to get treatment for them.
Right.
In a hospital.
And not receive a surprise bill for $20,000.
Dude,
Yeah.
one night my mom went to the ER because my mom had cancer when I was a teenager. She was there for like 2 or 3, maybe 4 nights. We got a $300,000 bill.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Can you like they?
What do
she
you
had
do?
she had good health insurance. It was a mistake. Like they
Right.
shouldn't have sent it
Right.
to us. But like just to see it,
They make those mistakes all the time.
$300,000.
Yeah, I was reading about this woman who has twins, and they both have leukemia. They got it in utero. And they're like babies. And they are receiving an experimental treatment that was paid for by a trial. It was a trial paid for.
Did something just turn off? Or was it the heat?
No, we're good.
Okay, sorry. Trial
Paid for
experiment.
by the government, and when Trump did all of the cuts, that money got cut, and no one's gonna, like, there's no billionaire philanthropist who's gonna step in and pay for it because they're all too busy fucking buying TikTok
and
to spread some
pummeling
freaking
all their money into AI.
propaganda. Yeah, so like this woman she has become an activist against her own desires, because like her children are dying, and it's like, it's great if you just want to like whatever, eat carrot salad and like make your little Instagram videos, but like there's actually people who's like will die,
Yeah. Ugh, that's awful.
How have you been able to stay away from fascist propaganda as a fitness person?
I haven't been able to.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like I'm inundated with it, which is really interesting. Like,
how
and
have you not become susceptible to it?
my boyfriend is the most left-leaning socialist I know. He's very helpful at grounding me.
So
Like,
you're saying a man has kept you from a man has shaped your mind?
I will say that just in general, having another person of any gender just there to reflect back your ideas helps you see, oh wait, maybe this isn't actually rational.
Unless they're crazy too.
Unless they're crazy too.
Yeah,
but
was
like
it
I
folie
am
à deux?
because I have a chronic health condition, I have fibromyalgia. I am like the prime target for
You
this
are.
kind of marketing
Yes,
because
yes.
because the health system, the traditional Western medicine literally still doesn't really know what fibromyalgia is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, I mean, I will kind of, in an effort to minimize my symptoms, have definitely become susceptible to marketing. Gone, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? And then you follow the thread, and then I realize, oh no, now I'm listening to a podcast with Casey Means. How did I get here? And then I have to reel myself back, or I have a friend or my partner who's like, wait a minute, like that seems like a little, and I'm like, yeah, that is sus, isn't it? And then I think more about it. I do more research. I'm like, all roads lead to MAHA.
All roads lead to MAHA.
Because there's some things.
Because they're right
Yeah.
about some
Yeah.
things.
They are
Because
right
the
about some
healthcare
things.
system is fucking broken in this country. For-profit healthcare doesn't work.
But it's crazy when you engage with wellness on Instagram, the algorithms lead you eventually to MAHA, at least in my experience,
Yeah.
which is really weird.
Yeah. I mean, look, dude, I get it. The fantasy of living in a life of purity, of environmental, nutritional purity, like, is very appealing. But unfortunately, in this deeply polluted world, it is impossible. But I get why people want to control whatever it is they feel. They want, like, the illusion of control is so potent.
But we're all powerless.
We're all fucking those
Well, and this-
PFAs, baby, those microplastics coursing through your blood right now. There's not much you can do. Although I heard you can get your blood filtered now, which like sounds like a fucking. I don't understand.
You have
They
to go to
filter
London to do it.
all of like so that means like I can't.
It's like a
even-
dialysis like process where they like pump your blood out, clean it, and then put it back in your body.
It's some Keith Richards shit. But also it's like give it 2 months, all those plastics are
They're
right
going
back,
right back,
in you.
Yeah, and isn't it in our brain?
Yeah, like a lot.
Yeah.
I know we always talk about pre-lapsarian. Just take me pre-plastics. Baby,
Yeah.
just take me back to the pre-plastics.
When was
please.
plastic invented again?
30s? 40s?
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally like sucking on this piece of plastic all day long. I'm like, our society is so sick.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But harm reduction model, you know.
That's what we always
true.
talk about with nicotine.
I could be doing heroin.
We could all be fucking, yeah.
This is
trying
true.
it off.
But yeah, like I also find myself in very susceptible to prelapsarian rhetoric
Fantasies,
and
yeah.
fantasies. Yeah, especially with like the back to the land movement from like the
Totally.
60s and 70s and stuff,
Totally.
which was just libertarianism and people wanting to focus on their individual well-being and be like, no.
Fuck the system.
Those protests, that marching, that's what they do. But
Yeah.
we are living off the land and we are the pure ones.
We're
and-
making a new paradise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to live in the city. I want
know,
to live
you
in an
can't even-
apartment.
but
I want to
honestly,
pound the pavement.
I know your thing is like you hate leaving New York City, but I have news, Sarah. You gotta hit the road right now, baby.
I have to go to London.
First, you're going to Rome, right?
No, I'm going to London, then Rome.
Oh, thank God. You always want to end in Rome because it'll just cleanse you.
Then I'm going back to London. I'm flying in and out of London.
Okay, that's good.
That's good. I feel like that airport's easier
Yeah.
to fly in and out of.
Yeah. I kind of like hate the British.
Oh,
Wait,
really?
why?
I love that.
I actually love them.
It's like a deep, it goes back historical.
Is it
Oh, 'cause
because
you're
they're the
Irish?
original
Colonizers? Are you
I
Irish?
am. I'm Irish Catholic. Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, like, you know, the revolution. I just kind of feel like they think they're better than everyone.
They do.
I love the way they love language.
Yeah.
You know,
That's actually nice.
they have. Look, do I believe in the British project? Do I think they did a lot of bad stuff? Totally. But like, are they great dinner guests? Yes.
They really fund theater. A lot of good theater
Also,
comes out
theater
of
is
there.
really cheap in London compared
Totally.
to New York.
I just saw an amazing play last night that premiered in London.
Yeah. Everybody has their good side. MAHA, the Brits, everybody has their good attributes. Trump, let's go back to it, the meanest
What-
maker of nicknames in the world.
That's his good
Pocahontas. Dude, he came up with calling. You know about that.
Oh,
Why
I
he
do,
called-
but that's his good attribute.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
really a good bully.
Something
Yes.
I'll also say about MAHA and everything, it's just like I got my nails done yesterday and I went in with out direction, and then I ended up with this like Elphaba frickin' green because like that's what the nail
Deranged.
person told me to get. Yeah, like
That's deranged.
yeah. So, but I was telling her that I was going to London and she was like, London. She was like, what is what's the UK? And I was like, the United Kingdom, and then there's England, and then London's the capital. And she was like, oh, okay. Like, she didn't know what the difference between the United Kingdom and London was. Then she was like, you know what's crazy about the United Kingdom is there's no farmland there. And I was like, I think there is. And she was like, oh, like, but do you see cows there? And I was like, not in the city. Anyway, it's just like, oh, this is also like, so much of our current issue is like an education problem, that like we have a shitty education system. You know what I mean?
But also, that is the fate, and this is a whole different topic, which we, like, London is the prime example of, like, a post-empire city where it's, like, it got into financialization. This was this really complicated article. Anyway, but, like, basically people saying, like, New York, America's no longer going to be, like, the leader of the world, right? But, like, what does it look like to live in the capital of, like, former empire? It's, like, it's actually, like, pretty tight. Like London, is it the center of the world anymore, the center of power? No. But is there great dinner theater and good shopping and great conversationalists? Yes. So maybe passing into obsolescence isn't the greatest of tragedies.
Maybe that's what needs to happen
That
for
would
the
be
US.
so nice.
I think it is happening, you guys. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be irrelevant, you know?
No more American exceptionalism.
Exactly.
Sounds dreamy.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Any final thoughts?
It's 8 o'clock, which means my brain is a little dead now.
Right. Let's all take one. Yeah, we'll take one off for the night, you know?
Okay, well, thanks so much, Britt. This was
Thank
really
you.
lovely.
Thanks for
and
having me.
yeah, definitely gotta keep us informed of
Yeah.
the fitness,
We need to know.
what's happening in the Pilates community.
Yeah.
Mm.
Scandal always. Well,
Class dismissed.
bye.
Bye.